The time is now 6:35. The date is Wednesday, May 27th, 2026. We will take a roll call to start the meeting. Jim Franklin's here. Megan?
Here.
Kalina?
Here.
Dot?
Here.
Marilyn?
Here.
Brian?
Here.
All right. Please note that we're doing a hybrid meeting with in-person and virtual attendance. If a member of the virtual public would like to make comments during a public hearing, please use the raise the hand function on Zoom, and you'll be assigned a speaking time. If you're listening in via telephone dial-in, press star 9 to raise your hand and press star 6 to unmute yourself. This meeting is being recorded for the local scene, and a record of this meeting will be posted on the local scene website as soon as they are able. Anyone intending to make an audio or video recording of this meeting should notify the chair at this time. We have an announcement. The Kingston Conservation Commission is seeking a new member. Commissioners are responsible for protecting the town's natural resources, including through enforcement of state and local wetland protection laws. Those interested should reach out to the Conservation Department by calling 781-585-0537 or emailing Matt Penella at mpenella@kingstonma.gov. Signing documents. Will the agent brief us on what we signed today?
Kingston Landscaping LLC for mowing of the trail at Callista Farm, and Express newspapers for public notice posting.
Move to action items. I'll now open a public meeting to discuss.
Sorry, apologies, you also signed permits that were approved at the last meeting. That would be the DOA for 28 Rabbith Road, as voted May 13th, and the amended orders of conditions for 1 Royston Drive, as voted May 13th.
We will move to a public meeting. I will now open a public meeting to discuss a request for determination of applicability submitted by Agent Penella on behalf of the Kingston Conservation Department for proposed herbicide treatment of invasive plant species within inland and coastal wetland resource areas and their associated buffer zones at various Kingston conservation and recreation properties. We're going to continue this to June 10th, I guess?
Yeah, apologies for that. I actually didn't file it, so we just put out the public notice. I never filed it because I'm waiting to hear back from DEP. I questioned whether I could really guide the commission towards approving this type of a project in this way, so I just wanted to get feedback from them, and then I haven't heard back. So we'll push it down the road.
All right. Do I have a motion to continue to June 10th?
Make that motion.
We have a
Second.
motion by Megan, second by Marilyn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that passes 5-0 to continue to June 10th. I'll now open a public meeting to discuss the request for determination of applicability for West Street, map 41, lot 6, submitted by Agent Penella on behalf of Kingston Open Space Committee for vegetative clearing and site grading to construct a trail into Henrich property within the 100-foot buffer zone to an isolated vegetated wetland. As this is the first meeting on this proposal, we'll now hear an introduction from the applicant. Matt.
So yeah, this is part of the long-running project trying to get a meaningful parking area for access to the Henrich Preserve. What the Open Space Committee figured out through a few different site visits is that we do not need to go into the interior of this parcel in order to put parking in. We designed sort of, I believe it's called, I'm gonna have to look at my notes to see what it's called. I'm gonna bring that back up in a minute, but it's essentially just a pull-off. Rather than being an official parking area, it's just gonna be sort of a stone dust along the side of the road, room for 3 vehicles to sort of parallel park off the side of the road. That way it minimizes our tree clearing. It makes it so that the parking area actually isn't jurisdictional. So that's why this filing became trail creation as opposed to parking lot creation, because what's being proposed here in this filing is just to clear whatever vegetation is absolutely necessary and grade whatever soils are absolutely necessary to get a trail from the parking area into the main parcel of Henrich Preserve. And obviously we're just talking about a standard pedestrian trail for passive recreation, so we're not talking about anything particularly wide. We're not talking about having to drop a bunch of trees or really grade a bunch of earth. We're going to pick the path of least resistance, but we will be working within the buffer of an IVW. For this filing, we did file this under WPA and KWPR, but it is likely that the resource area is only jurisdictional under the local. I didn't ask for determination on that on the filing, only whether the work proposed would require the filing of an NOI. I reached out to any of the area residents that had previously reached out to me by email with concerns about things we're doing back there, but I do plan on sending out a mailer to anyone abutting or really on that section of West Street before the work starts, just to avoid any uproar. So, yeah, land approach was the word I was looking for. Not a parking lot, it's a land approach. I'm picturing that we can likely do this with hand tools only, as far as the jurisdictional portions of the work. So I don't think we would need to do any machine-assisted leveling of soil, or any major tree removal. Maybe cutting through some downed logs probably with a chainsaw is about the extent of that. If anything appears to need erosion control after this work, wood chips would be brought in and raked out, but I don't expect that to be necessary with the level of work that we're doing. Project consists only of minor alterations of the buffer zone intended to support a public benefit. Work proposed will in no way degrade the ability of the on-site wetlands to provide for the wetland interests. Beyond that, also this IVW has no characteristics of a vernal pool. We did a site visit there, and there's no real basin there. It's an IVW that's spread out and relatively shallow. So we don't have any concerns there in terms of doing work within the buffer of a vernal pool. So barring any unforeseen questions or issues, I'd recommend issuance of a -3 determination.
All right, we'll open up the discussion with the commission first. Any questions from that? And we'll open up the public. Does the public have any comments? All right, perhaps do we have a negative, you said -3 DOA?
Yeah.
That would be looking for a -3 DOA on this?
So I move that we issue a -3.
Okay. We have a motion by Marilyn, do we have a second? Second by Brian, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes 5-0 for a -3 DOA on the West Street. All right, I will now open a public meeting to discuss requests for certificates of compliance submitted by Beals and Thomas on behalf of the permit recipient, Adam Shoemaker, for construction of a dual-use agricultural and solar array system within existing cranberry bogs at 126 Ring Road, DEP file number 0370890, and 131 and 137 Ring Road, DEP file number 0370889. As these projects are very similar and closely connected, the commission will discuss both requests at the same time. However, questions or concerns related specifically to only one of these requests may also be brought forward. As this is the first meeting on those requests, we'll now hear an introduction from the applicant.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Nick Santangelo. I'm a civil engineer with Beals and Thomas, representing the project tonight. As you had indicated, the project is located at 126 and 137 Green Road in Kingston, Massachusetts. The projects were issued DEP were issued certificate of compliances in February of 2020. Subsequently started construction back in 2021. Since then, construction is now complete. We're before you tonight with requests for certificate of compliances for both projects. As outlined in our letters, there's a few minor deviations that we wanted to note for the administrative record. However, we note in general that the deviations are minor and not significant in nature, largely having to do with the balancing of the uses between the agricultural facility and the energy production. Additionally, since the project had issued its order of conditions in 2020, there's been significant development and increases in technology that's allowed us to use smaller technology, so less equipment pads, less pad mounted equipment in general, and less array or solar panels within the bog areas. With that, Matt and one of the commission members met me last week for an on-site meeting to review the completed project as well as talk about any remaining closeout items. Matt and I have generated a short list that I believe we can work through of outstanding items before the commission finalizes a certificate of compliance should they feel that that's appropriate. So with that said, I'll open it up to the commission for any questions or comments.
All right, we'll now hear a briefing from the conservation agent. If any clarification is needed from the applicant during our applicant briefing, we will ask you to respond.
So, yeah, dealing with two filings at once, which is fine. I'll run through 126 first and then go to 131 to 137. They're both much the same, and I think any of the standout items on these are essentially the same. But as Nick said, they provided a list of, they provided the necessary as-builts with red line and engineer certification, and they also provided information on what they would call non-material deviations, which I would generally agree with. Things like perimeter fence locations being slightly shifted, generally further from wetland edges. Same thing with gates. The access gates were moved further away from Ring Road in a way that I wouldn't think makes any difference to the commission. Points of interconnection with poles and wires installed 10 feet different than on the plans. Same thing with landscape screening berm installed just slightly to the south, actually further away from a stream, closer to the bog road. And the fence install, which was already dealt with under a DOA, and less solar panels. As you mentioned, due to the technology, they didn't need to put as many panels on each of these sites. On 126, the only physical condition that I thought needed some work was on that planted berm. The erosion controls had already been removed, and it did seem like there was a little bit of exposed soil on a pretty steep planting berm. They planted these spruces pretty high up in order to create an extra visual barrier. The trees have grown a significant amount in the, I think, 2 years that they've been in the ground. So they just need a little bit of work to stabilize there, a little bit of straw wattle, and to remove the guy wires and supports before they girdle the trees. And then on 131 to 137, there was an additional change that I approved as a minor modification a couple of years ago on changing the location of some underground conduit. And this was relative to an exempt agricultural activity they were doing there, squaring off the bog that's closest to the electrical battery setup. There was about I think it was a 1/4 acre of bog that they just created by cornering off what was formerly part of the staging area. So I signed off on the change in conduit on that, figuring that was a very minor change. The only other thing on that particular property that was different was on this property the battery storage is actually in Kingston. On 126 it's in Plimpton. The commission I think had the same concerns regardless about battery storage in terms of emergency response, because regardless of where it is, the response would be the same and the systems are connected. So this one had an electrical handhole installed, which I had no idea what a handhole was until this site visit, but like a manhole, but man can't fit in there, a hand can. So it was essentially just a little, cover on the ground that was in the previously disturbed area in the vicinity of where I okayed the conduit to move. So that was another minor change that I didn't think was any big deal. And the stormwater bioretention area, I thought needed a little bit of attention there. A lot of invasives in there, mugwort, which if you don't deal with it will take over the entire site. And now to sort of the clerical side of this. So I thought physically both projects were built more or less, to the plan, and from the commission standpoint, nothing stood out as being, so far off that the commission wouldn't issue a COC. But from the clerical record, there was a special condition saying that they had to submit an updated O&M plan outlining fire response and keeping contamination out of the wetlands in the process of fire response. And I reached out to KFD just to see if there was any update on, maybe they would think that wasn't necessary at this point, because it's been 5 years even since the AOOCs were issued, and the information around battery storage has come a long way since then. But in my conversations with KFD, Chief Douglas did send a letter over saying that while they have received some information and they have an idea of what their response to these systems will be, there is still, essentially they're going to let it burn, but there may still be the potential to put water on them as they're finishing up in order to do a complete extinguishment. And he said he thought that would be a good idea for them to provide this information in order for them to understand best practices there to keep the wetlands from contamination in that instance. Beyond that, with my review of the O&M plan, which was submitted with the original filing, it doesn't mention stormwater systems at all. It actually just says not applicable. So I thought that they should update that, and that specifically the WPA orders of conditions in their stormwater section really mandate that. And so Nick said he'll be working on updating the O&M plan to include maintenance of the stormwater systems there, as well as provide the information the commission wanted for fire response. So I wrote, it's up to the commission how they want to handle this. You can either continue it to June 10th and give him time to come back with that, or you can vote on the RCOC with the stipulation that the information remaining has to be provided to my office to my satisfaction before the permit is actually issued in hand. Makes no difference to me. It's up to you.
All right, we'll open up the discussion on the commission. Any questions for Matt? Any discussion on what he laid out for us?
If it's not a hardship, I'd be more comfortable with getting it all put together and then continuing it and commenting on it at the next meeting.
All right, I don't disagree with you. I think something like this, it doesn't hurt anybody to make sure that all the
Right.
literature is in place, so that we're not tracking it down, and if we keep it on our agenda, then certainly to get there. Does anyone disagree? All right, perhaps, do we have a motion to continue both filings to allow them the time needed to complete the paperwork? Maybe to June 10th?
Oh,
Motion from Kalina, do we have a second?
second.
By Marilyn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I am an aye. That motion carries to continue to June 10th, 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now open a public meeting to discuss a request for certificates of compliance submitted by, oh, wait a second.
Hold on a second.
The wrong one.
We should jump to hearings.
Issue what?
Do we have any meetings?
Oh.
Jump to hearings, yeah.
Yeah, we have,
I thought
we have three.
pushing.
even
Okay.
with that, we
Yeah, you
should
still
jump
have
to
to
them.
open
Sorry,
and
the clock's
continue,
still messing with me.
It
Okay.
is 6:54.
Oh, we're late, yeah, we are late, huh? All right, we'll jump to section A, Forge Pond Fish Passage, Old Lake Street, Notice of Intent. We'll now continue a hearing for a notice of intent submitted by Gomez and Sullivan Engineers for the proposed construction of a permanent fishway at the Forge Pond Dam under Old Lake Street with associated dredging to restore the channel and improve fish passage. The applicant has requested continuance to June 10th.
Can I hold on that? That was my language, because we never discussed this.
Okay.
I've been tied in with this project, and everything is still in motion that was in motion before.
Are they requesting a continuance?
We do have representatives here from it. If they want to get up and not request a continuance, they're welcome to do that. We're still waiting on information from Natural Heritage and 401. So I was under the assumption that we were continuing this to June 10th, waiting for that. But if they'd like to,
Well, let's clarify, Jimmy. Yeah, please.
Jimmy Powell, 51 Landing Road, also the Ecology Program Director of Jones River Watershed Association, project partner. I have not been able to verify with Brad Chase whether or not he would personally like to. The only thought I had is that, I mean, we've got very positive movement on this finally, and that if you could give us a go-ahead with conditions that we get a positive response back, just so we can move this forward. But at the same time, I was checking with DMF to see if they had any thoughts to that matter. I don't believe they would be doing in-river work until June 15th regardless. That does put us kind of up against the wall coming up to the June 10th meeting. I've been trying to contact DMF about this. We have submitted the letter in Heritage Hub. Natural Heritage has responded to it. 401 is just waiting on that process to occur. We just don't have the formal letter acceptance, or I mean, they're going to give us a new letter on what we need to do. We haven't received that yet. So.
Okay, fine, would you like to?
Hein Dubois, Jones River Watershed. This is the first I'm hearing of this. I thought we were going forward and closing tonight. I think pushing it till June 10th and waiting for an order of conditions is really jamming the project.
Well, let's just stop there, because I only read that because it was on the paperwork. So we didn't motion for it, we didn't do anything.
Yeah, I'm
So
just.
let's just
I'm
reset and let's go forward, and you guys present and anything that you want us to consider. You don't have to ask for us not to push, because it wasn't pushed. It was that at some point it became a note that you guys wanted to continue, so let's just,
At some point it came in note what?
I wrote down that we would likely continue to June 10th based on my knowledge of the situation. So while it may put a squeeze on the project, it's because the information wasn't filed, and that's not the commission's fault. So I would have no issue, like I said on the last filing.
Excuse me, Matt.
I'm not done yet. Like I said on the last filing, for the commission to issue a permit with conditions like that, but it's not also necessary for them to do that. I, in some cases, can get a permit prepped in time for a meeting where it's possible I could have the commission sign the permit on June 10th, so that if he wants to get that, dam cutting work done, he doesn't have to wait until the end of June to get the permit. But at this point, the commission continued to get the information from Natural Heritage, and it's likely that we'll get that information before June 10th. So I don't see an absolute need for them to go forward with a decision tonight.
Excuse me, but I don't understand what you're waiting for from Natural Heritage, since the Tim letter was pretty obvious that he had everything he needed and we should go forward.
Do you want me to read the letter that he sent where he said he received the information and he would provide the update as soon as he could? I mean, we've not received
Right, and he
full
just got back
determination
from
on this.
vacation and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
So I don't think that, his vacation and timing is the key. The key is being able for DMF to be able to ramp everything up and get going on it, and to be able to do it before the end of June. If we're waiting on a 401 from DEP, I'll go stand on somebody's desk to get it. I've done it before. That's sometimes what it takes. You're in some kind of line. They don't understand the consequences of their delay or whatever, and that's what it takes.
But you
If there's
understand that the
some-
delay
I'm
was
just-
because Jill didn't file, your consultant didn't file the Natural Heritage.
Not my
permit.
consultant.
Well, the consultant
DMF's
on this
consultant.
project, the representative on this project did not file with Natural Heritage when
When she
all
said she
thought
did.
that they
No,
did.
I know
So
that.
that's why this got delayed.
Fully
It's
aware of
in process
that
now.
problem.
We should have information back from Natural Heritage shortly. My recommendation is push this to June 10th and try to have everything wrapped up that night, assuming obviously everything comes out positive from natural heritage, which I would expect. But that's just my thought. Again, if the commission wants to go forward with issuing something like this, they'd be welcome to do that, and I'd be comfortable facilitating that. I just don't think in this situation that is necessary.
You don't think, given this situation of waiting for natural heritage, that it's necessary because you're not clear about what natural heritage is going to say? It seemed like they were pretty clear to me.
From my
Higher
understanding, we shouldn't
LEC.
have opened this hearing at all without having natural heritage and 401 responding. So as it was, we kind of made a concession on this to open it to try to get the process going, and then it got messed up because the consultant hadn't
But that
actually
was like,
filed it.
that was the former meeting.
Before what meeting?
The meeting that we had before that was continued to today.
But what I'm saying is the commission never should have, but not technically the way the letter of the law is written, we shouldn't have opened this hearing without already having the information from Natural Heritage and 401. And we opened it because it was, the information was all filed and the expectation is that we would have it in time. And then it turned out that she actually hadn't filed it, and that's why we're here. So this isn't a delay because of the commission or because of me. It's just a delay because we don't have the information.
I'm just asking the commission to understand that it appears from Natural Heritage that we have everything we need in place in order to go forward with a phase 1 of the project, which is the notching of the Brockton Dam, which DMF was hoping to do before the end of June, in order to, because of financial reasons, in order to expend money they have saved for this project, and then to be able to go forward with the install of the ladder in July forward. Not very much is going to happen besides that, but without an order of conditions, I don't think that we can go forward, and I'm afraid that timing being what it is, that it'll be difficult to get all of that paperwork out and filed as we need to in order, because we're dealing with the city of Brockton, and we're dealing with the State Division of Marine Fisheries, and we're dealing, of course, with an engineer that is has difficulty in putting this at the top of her list. For some reason, it lands in the closet behind and underneath everything else.
The letter is submitted.
But I just don't understand what the commission needs in order to be able to issue an order. And I'm just asking you that if you don't need anything else, and you can write the condition pending the 401 and the natural heritage, which I think you can, that's all I'm saying. I think we're in a difficult position. We have been for several years. So.
Thank you. We'll open up to the commission based on what we just heard. Is there any strong feelings one way or another on what we can and can't do? I believe the last time we discussed this, we were just waiting for paperwork.
Well, if we're waiting for paperwork, we're waiting for paperwork.
Right.
My comment was going to be same as our last hearing. We're waiting for things to be finished up. We're waiting for things to be whole and finished
Okay.
before moving forward.
All right, is that the general consensus? Yeah, okay.
I don't know, because I was reading Matt's opinion that he thinks that we could issue an order of conditions approving the project with special conditions. Stating
Your mic's not on. Can you start over?
Yeah, I'm looking at Matt's language that says that he thinks that the commission could issue the OOCs approving the project with special conditions stating that the applicant must comply with all NHESP requirements, as well as provide all NHESP correspondence to the department. I don't see why we can't do that.
I don't disagree with what he's saying. Matt, as far as I read, we were just waiting just as a paperwork stop, which is, I think, in almost all cases, the right path. But when you have a public benefit project, it's a little bit different than, I see it as being a little bit different, and that's just my opinion, as, say, a commercial solar farm, just to be clear in what we've done tonight. So from that perspective, I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
like I said, I have no issue one way or the other. What we're waiting on from Natural Heritage is their determination. They provided a determination early on that required work that caused the development, I'll call it the development team, the application team, to push back a little bit with Natural Heritage and suggest that maybe certain portions of that either weren't necessary or could be phased. And what the determination was to phase the project, and so to separate the fishway work from the channel restoration work in Forge Pond. So that's what was just submitted to Natural Heritage, I believe, last week or late the week before. And I just got a response from the review biologist at Natural Heritage yesterday that said he was on vacation and then had an unexpected absence, and he was going to review that shortly. He said, I will work on revising the phase determination as discussed. So 2 parts to this. One is they're going to get us the information on, the part of the work that will happen in June and shortly thereafter. And then there's the rest of it, which would be the river channel restoration, where, from what I can tell, they're going to require in-water, freshwater mussel surveys and exclusion work as part of the process. So it's fine for the commission just to say, we'll issue the orders of conditions with the special condition that all, requirements of Natural Heritage and the 401 program are followed. And it's fine to wait 2 weeks on it too and see what it says.
Let me ask you a very direct question. Expecting that we get the 401 document back, and it says exactly what we're expecting it to say, what's the difference between the conditions that we write tonight, if we vote them today, versus what we would write in 2 weeks? And would it just be a past versus future tense article that we would be changing? Because at that point, if we're recommending for approval, then what's the difference if we just condition it slightly different as far as just waiting for that affirmative consent from somebody who was out for a little bit longer than they were supposed to, and that stuff happens?
I don't know. It might be as simple as either way you'd be writing must comply with these requirements, or you might get more specific with it. I have an expectation of what's coming out of Natural Heritage. I don't have an expectation of what's coming out of 401. From what I heard, 401 said they were waiting for the Natural Heritage determination before they issued theirs, but I don't recall that there was any information about, hey, everything's ready to go, everything looks great, we don't have any comments, but we're waiting to hear from Natural Heritage, or they just weren't issuing theirs until they got the Natural Heritage information. I don't know. I don't foresee any major problems either way here. I don't.
Could it be conditioned? Sorry.
No, my question would be is if we do approve it with special conditions and the 401 and Natural Heritage come back with something that we don't like, what do we do?
I mean,
What's the backtrack?
as long as you're saying that basically the commission's already reviewed this and hasn't had really any problem with the project, right? So it's not going to be a situation of, the project going forward is going to be a problem from a wetlands protection standpoint. So if you're saying that in a special condition that they have to comply with Natural Heritage and 401, then, it's
But that takes
almost
them-
irrelevant what each one of them says, unless it was something so onerous that they can't go forward with the project, which in that case, they would have to go back to either one of those agencies and ask them to revisit, sort of like has already happened with Natural Heritage, where they were asking for mussel surveys under the existing fish ladder, where there's often no water. And yeah.
So would you say it would be your opinion that we could properly condition this approval based on subsequent approvals that are outstanding at this point?
Yeah, I don't see any major issue with this either way. I think I said that before. I don't think it matters how the commission handles this. It's already handled a little bit out of the ordinary, and I think that is partially because it is a beneficial restoration project and there's a public benefit, and it's a project that my department is also tied in on. So I don't see a problem with it.
would this put the responsibility on you to determine whether or not they're in compliance? Would you have to interpret the 401 natural heritage?
Yeah, but I sort of am
Would it be just like a
anyways.
yes, no kind of thing?
Yeah, I think I sort of am anyways with all permits like that. So the thing, I think,
Or is that something the commission should be doing the interpretation of?
the difference would be, and again, this may be something that you're utilizing more for projects that are for a different cause than ecological restoration and a clear benefit, but there will be situations where, and there have been situations before, where natural heritage does not take action in regards to rare species, and the commission will. In this case, I don't think you're gonna regulate any of this stuff more heavily than natural heritage would, or than 401 would. So
Can I ask Pine a question?
you can ask
Of course.
anybody any questions you want.
What were the dates that you said you wanted to start work again? And is this, the work you're talking about is just on notching the dam right now?
So what has been recommended is that we, because of the need for the mussel survey for the dredging work. So the dredging is a much more complicated project
Right.
that is going to happen in the wintertime or
Okay.
late fall.
Okay.
Late fall and winter. So what we had discussed was having two phases of the project. Phase one is the fish ladder phase. Phase one includes, and first would be notching of the dam, which is a 2-foot by 1 foot where the fish ladder is now, which is the southernmost sluice, I'll call it, taking that, the sill down 1 foot by 2 feet wide. So that's essentially the cut. It's got to be done by a contractor. DMF wants to pay for it. They'd like to pay for it before June 30th.
Fiscal year?
It's a fiscal year
Right.
issue. That's the biggest concern, I think, that we have.
Okay.
The rest of phase one is then installing the 50-foot long BK Fishway, which will be the first time in the country, I think, besides Indiana and the Eel River. It's a new fishway. You're going to love it. Almost every fish in the river will be able to pass through water if there's water coming down. Notching the dam is part of that,
Yeah.
allowing there to be water flowing down the ladder, even if it ain't flowing over the spillway,
Right.
because those sluiceways are a little lower than the spillway.
Yeah.
I think
So-
Dot's question was, what's the date that you want to have
So
that
as I
done by?
said, the notching should take place before June 30th, if
Okay.
possible.
So if we issue it on June 10th, it gives you a significant amount of time to do that work.
Maybe.
But you gotta get a lot of stuff.
There's
I
a
mean,
lot
you
of
gotta
steps.
get the
Yeah.
order of conditions, you gotta get filed with the registry, you gotta get it to the city of Rockland, you gotta get, there's a lot of paperwork involved when we're working with, the city 20 miles away. and
So
the
the idea of
state.
issuing it tonight would give you a head start?
I'm sorry, I can't quite hear you.
The idea of issuing it tonight would give you a head start on some of the paperwork that needs to get done,
I think
not the work
that's
that needs to get
basically
done.
it. Plus, if you need the 401, it gives me the opportunity to call them up, which is the same thing that happened with Trip Hammer. Trip Hammer project was going to go down the tubes until I got on the phone with the guy in charge. I said, well, we had it 2 years, where the hell is the 401? And it came the next day. So that's how the system works, unfortunately.
So, I mean, as it is right now, you vote tonight, that would at least give them the idea that they can move forward with a contractor. I don't know if DMF has a contractor already ready and scheduled on this, but it would give them the idea they could do that, but we don't have the permit ready. So the permit, the way this typically works, if you issued it tonight, we would prep the permit, you would sign it on June 10th. So I said earlier, I could try to have that permit prepped for June 10th. So if you wanted to issue it tonight, we're still not putting the permit in their hand likely until June 10th unless I can prep it awfully fast and get each one of you or 4 of you to come in and sign it between now and then. So that's,
So either way, the permit's going to be issued June 10th.
there's a chance of issuing it before that, but it depends on whether or not we have the time to put it together. We've been pretty behind on a lot of this stuff.
But this is such a highly beneficial project that any effort we would put in to getting it ready ASAP would be well worth it. And I'm sure any
Sure.
of the members of the commission will be happy to sign it as soon as it's ready.
I agree with that statement.
And again, just to clarify, you're talking about this outstanding 401, but I don't hear that there's a risk factor in signing this tonight.
No, I don't think so. I think as long as you have conditions in there, that state that they need to comply with whatever recommendations or decisions come down from both of those agencies, I think you're clear. My only concern with this would be if you have somebody who wants to appeal the issuance of this permit, which I don't expect. It's happened before on dam removals, but if you had somebody who, for whatever reason, didn't want this project to happen, and they want to appeal it on some sort of procedural basis where, based on the letter of the regulations, shouldn't even have opened it without having that information. And you could probably make a case, well, we expected to not close the hearing until the information came in, but then you do, maybe that gives somebody, but again, I don't expect that. I don't think that's a likely scenario. So other than that, I don't see why it makes a difference one way or the other.
I think we should issue it.
All right, just a straw poll, because we're going to have to close the hearing before we actually take a vote, I think, right? So it's either continue or we have to close it and take a vote. So just straw poll before we do that. I would be in favor of issuing with the proper language to condition waiting for the 2 outstanding documents and making sure that they were properly satisfying to the agent, and if it needs to come back, we can always vote it again. What's everybody else feeling?
It's okay.
Brian?
In my opinion, is to wait 2 weeks, just so we can have it all.
Kalina?
I'm leaning to waiting.
We can take a vote.
All right, I think we have what we need to pass it. If we want to do it tonight, do I have a motion?
Well, let's close the hearing.
We would have to close it.
Motion to close the hearing.
Vote it one way or another, so.
Second motion to close.
Motion to close the hearing by Marilyn, second by Dot. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the hearing is closed. Do I hear a motion in relation to approving?
Matt, do you want to help with the language?
You want to walk us through the?
Yeah, you'd be voting in favor of issuing orders of conditions with special conditions as discussed, including ensuring that the applicant follows the guidance from 401 program and natural heritage.
As well as other conditions discussed previously. So that would be my motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Marilyn. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Opposed?
Nay.
Yeah, no, sorry.
So we have 2 nays, Brian and Megan, so that motion carries 3-2. Thank you.
Fortitude.
Sorry?
4-2.
Sorry, 4-2. All right, we'll move to section B, 18 Smith's Lane, map 67, lot 82-1, notice of intent. We'll now continue a hearing for the notice of intent submitted by South Shore Survey on behalf of Ronald Bernazzaro for the proposed construction of a single-family house with associated utilities within the 100-foot buffer zone to inland wetland resource areas in the 200-foot riverfront area. Matt, the applicant has requested a continuance to June 10th, is that correct?
That one is correct.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
So I move we continue it to June 10th.
All right, we have a motion by Marilyn, second. Second by Brian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so that motion carries 6-0. Section C, updates to the Kingston Wetland Protection Regulations. I will now continue a discussion on updates to the Kingston Wetland Protection Regulations. Matt, do you have any comments?
Anybody? I got some information
Yeah.
from Marilyn. And again, I said at the last no, she's not gonna, you can't copy her homework.
The second Maryland.
I said at the
I will
last.
let him read it.
I said at the last hearing that, if the commission didn't have anything, the only idea was just to get some sort of marching orders or just concepts. If there were things that you thought the regulations needed in terms of additions or subtractions or changes, sort of conceptually, that would probably help a lot of back and forth later with the consultant. But if there's not a lot of that now, it's fine. I'll give them everything that we already discussed or that I already have on file, and just probably continue this for 3 months. Hopefully that would be enough. I don't have an idea yet of exactly how much time. I actually still don't have the quote yet. So our consultant is clearly pretty busy right now. But I expect probably about 3 months is what we'd continue this for, and then start the process of the commission reviewing what they wrote and making comments and going back and forth on that.
Thank you. We'll open up discussion to the commission. Matt, I just sent you an email about the mosquito conversation. Maybe it's something that you want to discuss at some point, but.
Yeah, and that was a discussion, filings that we've had that come to mind, the Tarkiln Road filings, where there are these old cranberry ditches that are stagnant. It makes a really poor quality wetland, and one that skews heavy towards mosquitoes and lack of natural predators, which then leads to human health concerns, but also wetland health concerns with chemicals used legally or illegally at that point. And is there a way that the permitting pathways could allow for a property owner to deal with that sort of thing? And I don't know that there is preliminary conversations with mosquito control about that. They sort of said, well, they also have to go through all the same permits to do that type of work. But it's something that, I think if we look into, I think is something that can really increase wetland protection, because I don't think it'd be a situation where it would be written in a way where somebody would be able to say that just anything is something that should be dealt with like that. There's obviously a difference between streams and actual healthy wetlands versus these remnant agricultural things. So that was one thing that hasn't been discussed prior, that I can see if there's anything else that any other towns do on stuff like that.
So I did, in that email, I put a lot of information, and I did spend some time on this, trying to get it in by your deadline. So Central Mass Mosquito Control describes ditch restoration as part of it, integrated pest management. It's different statutory, but there are paths there. Obviously, we know that once, in an operational bog, the maintenance that achieves the same thing is essentially a protected or an excluded activity. So there was there seemed like there was a pathway if we were to take the right steps. So it's kind of a long read, but it didn't seem like it was a no. It just seemed like there was probably some things that we would have to do if we're going to try to ultimately cut down on the use of pesticides in those wetlands. So, any other things from that?
Well, I had sent mine in to you, and I didn't know if we needed to discuss them or if you can just fold it in.
The ones from today?
Yeah.
I didn't review the ones from
You didn't
today.
read
So
them.
if there's anything
I don't think it has to
particular,
be-
we don't review
yeah.
materials after,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
48
12
hours
days.
before the meeting. No,
Yeah.
If there's any one of them in particular that you want to just discuss
Well,
conceptually
one I
with the
sent in
commission, that's fine.
actually,
But
the third one I had sent in several meetings ago, so that one you had. And that was the one about within 100 feet of a potential vernal pool and/or a certified vernal pool, landscaping activities such as raking, leaf blowing, mowing shall not be allowed from March 15th to April 15th to protect migrating and breeding species in their habitat.
Sorry, I thought we had already discussed that one at a meeting. It's my
I know you kind of tossed it, I
bad.
don't know if we ever discussed it, I don't remember getting much feedback, but I just
yeah, I'll,
want to be an equal opportunity player.
so my take on all this stuff is pretty much anything the commission wants to do, we'll give the consultant those concepts. If they come back and they say, hey, I think this is a horrible idea, or in the sense that I don't think this is defensible at all, we'll probably hear that stuff anyways from town council when we go to review. I don't think there's anything wrong with that as a concept. I think where we'll run afoul of that is if it's a legally landscaped area or not. If it's a legally landscaped area, we may not have the ability to condition that sort of stuff, but if it's not a legally landscaped area, then I would imagine we can and probably should, and probably should make them, restore it anyways. But I think the concept is good. So I think, yeah, we would include
Well,
that and see.
And then the other two, we won't discuss because I didn't get them to you soon enough?
No, I just didn't have it ready
Oh,
to
okay,
discuss.
sure. No,
Like,
no, no.
I'm not saying, we can discuss whatever any of you want. You didn't have to submit anything to me to discuss it tonight. If it's not, I guess my guidance on that was that if it's not something you think is like a big thing, then, we don't have to get in the weeds and discuss a ton of stuff. But if it's something that you think is worth bringing up as a concept.
Okay, then I'm going to keep going.
Cool.
Upon the issuance of the order, this was on the heels of the document you created about the letter of understanding for the applicant and also for the engineer, construction person. So upon issuance of the order and within the first 2 months of project work, a site walk shall be scheduled to confirm the applicant's and contractor's understanding and compliance with the order. And then the second one was for properties with an open order and/or perpetual conditions, a site walk shall be scheduled annually to confirm compliance. And I guess I was thinking about that as like staying ahead of things instead of always playing catch-up and getting into enforcement. This way, you're being informative, helpful, and hopefully we're avoiding a lot of conflict over enforcement. So that was my mindset in putting that forth.
Yeah,
That's all I had to say.
I like the first 2 month one a lot, and even putting it on the applicant to schedule that.
Yeah,
Similarly with the annual site visit. I mean, it's tough one way or the other. I mean, if you leave it up to them to schedule it, maybe they don't, and maybe we can just have a general annual enforcement process where on June 1st of every year.
This is it.
Or let's say by like the end of September every year, if you haven't scheduled your annual site visit,
Or just
then
block it
we
out.
just send out the fine and something like that. I always like to put that stuff on the applicant so that I don't have to deal with that on my own. The other thought for the annual is, we do now track all of our filings, but it's not always updated. It's not something like, it's a lot to get back and check on that list.
no, but as you said,
so
if
even
you
like-
picked a date,
Yeah, but even with that, given the amount of filings that we have or that we generate, because obviously this would be something I think that would go forward. It would be with new permits, not retro, but they still add up quickly. So that one, I think, that one could be a little tough.
I think
And
about it
maybe
in
it could be-
comparison of the time you've spent on some of our major projects that you've spent hours and hours and hours
Yeah.
with enforcement, when if we had stayed ahead of it
Yeah.
and managed the information and the cooperation, it would have saved you hours.
It's still gonna take a ton of time, and it's still gonna unfortunately result in more enforcement and more
It could,
time.
it could.
The good thing is that it will lead to more compliance, so that's good. Overall, it's a benefit. It's just one that I don't know if a two-person office can actually feasibly maintain. But I like the concept, and then we can even do that. And sometimes, look at the landscape herbicide and pesticides and fertilizers
Yeah.
article that we issue.
That,
We don't follow up on
Nope.
that.
no.
It's more of a, if we actually, caught somebody doing that, that has that condition, then we can take action on that, and that will hopefully get towards compliance. But it's more meant as a preventative, so this could even be something like that, where if somebody knows they're supposed to do that every year, then,
Right.
You would think you would be more in tune with your conditions. People still aren't. We went out to do a site visit to North Street this past week, and in the process, we got one project in progress where it looked like they were out of compliance with the conditions based on ESC or stockpiling, and then another project that had started work without the pre-work site visit. So, and then when you talk to them, it's, where does it say that on my conditions? And by the way, can you send them to me? Like, people still don't get it, and that's where I do, getting back to that memorandum of understanding, I think that's really important in making people sign something that really blatantly shows how responsible they are, that they just can't get the permit and forget about it. But that was kind of a tangent on my part.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Anything else from Matt?
No, that's all I had.
All right. So Matt has requested a continuance till August 26th. Do I hear a motion?
So, motion to continue.
Okay, we have a motion from Megan. Do we have a second by
Second, sure.
Marilyn? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that passes 6-0.
26.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to step back.
Yeah, 1 North Street RDA.
Action items. Okay, I will now continue a public meeting to discuss the request for determination of applicability for 1 North Street submitted by Ann Antonellis for installation of a fence with gate within the 100-foot buffer zone to various coastal wetland resource areas. As this is the first discussion on the proposal, we will now hear an introduction from the applicant. Have you signed in? Yep, when you get done, just right behind you, okay?
Sorry.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Ann Antonellis, 1 North. We had, I think this was continued from last month because I was in the hospital, so last 2 weeks ago or something. But I have a walkway, I don't know if this picture's, Matthew.
Do you want me to pull the thing up?
There's a walkway, when I built the house, we granted an easement so people could connect from shore to Rocky Nook, that road. So I granted on my property that easement. But through the easement, there's a walkway down to a staircase. That's a private staircase. I have a private sign there and stuff. A lot of people go down there. The problem with it is it's an old staircase, and it's shored up so that it's okay, but I'm afraid of liability and somebody getting hurt, because when you get to the bottom of the staircase, it's just the rocks and stuff, and depending on how the tide comes in, you could have, the sand could be there, or the sand isn't there. And my daughter actually fell, but she's not going to sue me, I don't think. But, so I want to put a gate there, which is really close to the walkway, so that people realize what it is.
I can quickly run through this, and also, there's a ongoing enforcement thing at the same address that we're going to talk about next. So this right here in the green was the stuff related to the enforcement, but the property, the house is right here, and then Rocky Nook Avenue ends here. This is the easement that she was talking about that runs through here. It's a little sort of crushed stone footpath, and then right here is the portion that's relative to this filing. So it's
Which is grass, basically.
right
very
here. You
solid
have
grass area.
this was I believe 19-foot across fence. There's a 1 to 3 foot gate and 2 8-foot sections on either side of that, just for a vinyl picket fence and gate. You have the coastal bank is essentially right along that. The blue line is the FEMA flood zone, the border of land subject to coastal storm flowage, but it's also generally in the vicinity of top of coastal bank. Somewhat different than the area where the enforcement action took place. There's sort of a transition right around the end of that everything between here down to where the stairs are is in a landscaped condition. So the area where this fence is not going in the natural portion of the coastal bank. This is an area that has been continually landscaped, mowed, and a lot of what's around it are landscape shrubs. There was proposed also small plantings with it that were native. She actually planted sweet fern there, and then the rabbits ate it already. So there's that.
I had a lot of rabbits.
Sorry, were you done with your presentation part? Or do
No,
you
I
wanna
didn't know
say
if there was any
anything?
questions, but so, yeah, so that's basically the reason why we need that is just, I'm trying to stop people from getting hurt, too. So,
Is there any pictures? I didn't see
Yeah, there were pictures. Do you want me to run through my
yeah, why don't you
stuff first?
run through your report, please, Matt?
Okay, not repeating any of that. All the activities proposed in this filing, building a fence and plantings, are categorized as landscaping under KWPR. While the regulations state that landscaping activity should be a minimum of 30 feet from any wetland resource areas, there are a few regulations that may still make this project permissible despite its proximity to the resource areas. One being all the plantings are native species, and the other, given that landscaping can be located within 30 feet of a resource area if there is already existing landscaping in that area. So you couldn't increase landscaped area in that situation, but in this, I don't see any increase. The area, as I said, is already in a landscaped condition. I did note that the applicant should detail how the installation of the fence will be performed in a way that protects the resource areas from sedimentation. There doesn't appear to be any wildlife passage issue, which is discussed often in the wetlands regs. And this does not, pose a complete impediment to passage. It's just a physical deterrent to trespassing. So that was the only thing. I don't know, and I don't know if I shared this to you before, but I don't know if you said you were going to use a particular
East Coast.
company? East
Yeah,
Coast
they've already
fence.
given the quote, they've given the quotes. And then the
So-
other thing I don't know if you're gonna add that, or the other thing we're doing later is the cedar post.
Yeah, that's on the next
Okay.
section. So I think not having that information, it's, 4 posts total? I think this could be conditioned to where, given that it's East Coast fence and it's not like your neighbor putting this in, that they can, I would like, no matter what, for them to reach out to my office before installation so that they could, describe how they plan on doing that. Because what I don't want to see is the just kind of pile of dirt left behind for the next time it rains to have stuff run off into the bay. So I would assume they can handle that pretty easily, and that it would be a quick process. So if there
I
aren't.
think there's 4 posts on the fence.
Yeah, it should be just 4. So I noted that the commission should determine whether the vegetated area would be considered naturalized or existing landscaping. I contend it's a landscaped area. We can pull photos up in a second. We did a site visit here on May 5th. Appeared to consist mainly of landscape plants. So I said as long as installation procedures are protective of the resource areas and, erosion control considerations. I also noted no cutting of vinyl within jurisdiction. I don't, you have something down there, cut them with whatever saw, that's going to leave just tons of plastic to get into the ocean. I said beyond that, I think this meets the standards of WPA and KWPR. If it was more substantial fencing, a lot more, there may be more concerns with it, but this is a pretty easy ask.
We'll open it up for discussion.
Do you want me to pull up photos? Let me find them. This, I'm standing modeling the location of the gate. So here you're at the corner of that easement. You can see it's probably crushed shells, where it takes a dog leg to the left, and people are going straight. The stairs are in the back right here that lead down to the beach. So the gate would go across from this area over here to here. You have here an area that's been maintained in grass, and then you have here on both sides landscape shrubs. And really everything that's visible here in this portion is in a landscape condition. Everything off to the right of this picture is more or less in a natural condition, and that's the portion with the enforcement action.
Just a note, just so you know. When you go
You'd have to jump back up there if you want to.
Oh, okay, sorry. When you go around this corner, going this way, there's one of those green boxes for the sewer, and there's big bushes, and the town maintains those. They chop it because they want it to be, it's on my property, but they do that, which is further away from this area. So, just so you know, that's done by the town.
And you did remind me that I forget if I even wrote it on here, but I have in my records that the sewer department does want the fence company to contact them to come paint the line before the fence install, because they don't show up under dig safe. So.
Sewer doesn't show up under Dixie?
No, you have to call them and they come out and paint them.
Who has to come out, dig safe?
No, the sewer
Okay.
commission. So I would put that on the permit requirements anyways. It's not likely that that it would be impacted there, but they want to obviously make sure for good reason.
I think the sewer line goes right through my road.
So just, if you could, just add one question. So this is a trespassing situation that you put in the fence up to keep them off your
Yes. because-
steps?
Well, we granted an easement when we built the house.
Sorry, you got to go to the microphone.
Sorry, I'm trying to show you. We
I
granted
don't-
an easement on the
Hang on, let
property.
me just because you asked, the easement is for the sewer, correct?
There's a few easements on the property.
Okay.
There's an easement for the sewer.
Yeah.
So that's one easement, so that if they had to dig up my lawn for whatever, they would do
Yep,
it.
Maintenance, yep.
Right, that's fine. And then there's another easement for this walkway, which is stone. That was granted because when I was buying the property, Shore Drive and Rocky Nook, they had no place to go. They couldn't get through because I was blocking them. And so they came to us and we said, when I was buying the property, will you grant an easement so we could do a walkway through there? So I put it on the deed, we did it, we got all what we had to do here, so that people would not just cut through my property and that I can control the path.
Sure.
So,
But the starting point and the end point is two streets?
yes,
Or it's, okay, so it's not going down to the ocean?
no,
Okay.
no. And so if you
That's
see
the
this
only
tree,
clarification I was-
this tree says private property on it, people just think they can just go down
I
there.
completely understand that.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it freaks me out.
No, it's your property, you do what you want.
Yeah, I don't want them to get hurt too,
Yeah.
you know?
I just wasn't sure if you were cutting off an easement and we were going to
No,
step
no,
into
no,
it.
no, and actually, there's a fence that was put up when the easement went on, like going up further away towards the house, that when we had to put the fence in, we had to put a big open gate. So we couldn't put permanent at the time, so that if they do need to come through, we can open the gate and they can go through.
So, all right, anyone, are there any other questions? All right,
You'd be looking at a -3 with special conditions as discussed.
I'll make that motion.
so we have a motion for a -3 DOA with amendments as discussed by Marilyn, a second by Dot. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries 6-0.
Just, you'll get your permit in roughly 2 weeks. If you want, in the meantime, call your contractor, tell them that your permit is almost ready and that they need to contact my office.
Okay.
They can call, they can email, either one's fine.
Okay, I'll talk to you.
All right, thank you.
Oh, and then we have the same property for enforcement. You're not going anywhere, sorry. I thought you were leaving.
All right, sorry. 1 North Street enforcement continued from an earlier date. Matt, could you brief us?
Yes. Planting, I don't think I need to go back to scratch on this. We already have discussed this. There was an enforcement order issued under WPA and KWPR on April 29th requiring restoration plantings as detailed in the landscape plan that I had already pulled up that was submitted with the RDA filing. Also required was stabilization of open soils and permanent protection of the area with conservation posts. Maintenance allowances for the restoration area were detailed as well. We went to review the plantings on May 6th, found the plantings were sufficient, but there was no stabilization of the exposed soil. We discussed options with the property owner. A conservation seed mix had already been applied to those areas, so straw became the best option there. So straw was spread out across to stabilize the soil, but still allow seed growth. The property owner emailed May 13th stating the work was complete, except for I also required a run of straw wattle at the back of that area because it's a small area, and that would be sufficient for the site. Property owner emailed May 13th stating the work was complete except for the conservation posts. There were no locations detailed on the plan, so she asked if we could meet on site and show where those were supposed to go. We didn't connect for a little while. I reached out again on the 21st, and she called. We set up a site visit for May 26th, and we were able to show at that point where the posts should go and how that process should work. So the posts are not yet in place, but there were some mitigating factors there in that the plan didn't specifically detail where they were to go at the time. So commission's obviously welcome to do whatever they want to do in these situations. Site was not stabilized on time, but is currently stable. Plantings were installed early before they needed to be done, and the posts are still not installed, but she is working on that. So property owner has taken the issue seriously and has worked towards compliance.
All right, we'll open up to discussion, comments from the commissioners or general public. All right. Moving on.
So I think to get down to motions, if the commission doesn't have any feelings about this one way or another, you would take a vote to modify the EO to change the date of the requirement on the conservation posts, and this would be continued into the next meeting after that.
Would that be June 10th?
I think that would depend on what the commission wanted to do and what the property owner thinks that they would need for time to get this done, just so we don't have to keep doing this. You want to continue this once, and then if it's not done, then you just start issuing the daily fines until it's done. So I don't want to suggest a date that may not work for
What
everybody.
date would you like to see?
Well, we just have, so I have to talk to the fence people who have to talk to them because I can't dig holes.
Right.
So this, when they install the fence, I wanted to have them install that, so it's not costing me a lot more money because I've already spent like $3,000 or $4,000 on this.
This is true. She did mention that at the site visit, that the
Yeah.
idea was to have the fence company do the posts.
Because it is Rocky Nook.
I also did mention, like we have allowed in other,
Bless you.
yikes.
I
Can't think straight here.
I can't just sneeze once.
Me either. I did also offer, like we have offered in other, especially coastal situations, that if the property owner would prefer to do a cedar fence, like a rope fence kind of thing, that you just put the conservation posts on the fence posts and the fence has to stay in perpetuity or be replaced by conservation posts. So if that's what they want to do there, that's fine too. There's already a post and rope fence on the other side of the or the crushed stone or crushed seashell walk. So if they want to match it on the other side, as long as the conservation posts are there, no difference from a protection standpoint. Might even
And
be
I was
better.
also thinking better because the animals that walk, the dogs, they would be walking on the conservation if I didn't have, you know, a rope or something. So it would protect that area even more.
Right, but just for the purposes of tonight, it seems like you're in compliance and you're moving forward to
Right.
close this out. How much time do you think you need for to have the fencing installed?
I'm going to, well, today's the 27th, right?
She's not going to have the permit in hand
To
for
do the other
the
fence.
fence installation until June 11th. So,
Call it September 1st. I mean, at this point, it's just.
Oh, I hope June
We're doing-
30th because the summer people come, you know.
yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing, is honestly, at this point, the site is stable, the plantings are there. It doesn't really matter what you pick, as long as, A, it allows enough time for it to get done, without having to keep kicking this down the agenda, and you have a mechanism in place that it's going to be on an agenda anyways, that if it's not done, then you can take further enforcement action. Whether the conservation posts are there tomorrow or 3 months from now, the property owner just understands that there's not supposed to be any work happening in there, and the posts will be installed. I don't think you want it to happen a year from now, but I don't think it matters whether it's in 2 weeks or 2 months, as long as the commission is tracking it getting done. So, I mean, Len, like I said, it is, you don't always make these sort of considerations, but I think where you have a situation where there's already going to be a permit there installing a fence, that it's feasible to allow the installation of the posts to coincide with them being there doing that work anyways.
The first meeting of July?
I'm sorry.
First meeting of July?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, that should,
Plenty of time.
I don't have that
Does
date
that
in front of
work?
me.
what's the date on that? I don't,
It's the 8th, excuse me, July 8th.
what, 8th?
Yeah.
July 8th.
Yeah, because I already paid for this fence thing. I've been pushing them off. So,
Okay, great.
yeah.
Okay, I can change the date on the EO to be the day before that July, it's July 8th, the first meeting?
July 8th is the
Then it would
first
be
meeting.
July 7th
Okay.
for the deadline. By the end of day, July 7th, you'd provide evidence that they had installed that,
Right.
and then it'll be on the enforcement section on July 8th. If you've already provided the information to me and I can clearly see that it's there, then you don't even have to show up on the 8th if you don't want to, unless you enjoy sitting there and,
That's interesting.
yeah.
Can I just, one other thing, Matt, we talked about those 3 trees, those 3 bushes? I had
There's,
took a picture too.
yeah, and I think we do have, I don't know, did those make it into the drive yet? They would, okay. Remember I don't know if it was 2 years ago or something, there was the Facebook post. Megan, you, I
Oh, yeah.
think, caught that back then, that the landscaper did some work there, and the bushes or, shrubs that were cut down are still there. They are still pruned into shape. She was asking, am I able to keep cutting those? Am I able to keep those from becoming something really tall and blocking my view and having bittersweet growing up them and all this stuff? And I said, I don't know. That's a question for the commission. Technically, everything behind the conservation posts is supposed to be left alone. All 3 of them are invasives.
Oh.
You have shrub honeysuckle and gray willow or rusty willow. I told her that I don't know if the commission can really approve you cutting anything behind the conservation posts, but if there was a filing to do a cut and paint on those and replace them with native shrubs, I don't think the commission would say no to that, as long as the roots weren't being disturbed so that the bank was stable. So she just wanted to bring that up with the commission to kind of know what she could or couldn't do there, and my initial reaction, like it is with so many things, is just to put it back on the property owner to have to deal with that through some sort of a filing.
Those 3 things, if you cut them and leave the roots, they would just keep growing like crazy.
No, my suggestion was to get a permit for cut and paint, like to do a cut
Oh,
with
and
a,
paint it.
yeah,
Okay.
the paint, the
Yeah.
herbicide paint
Yeah.
that carefully done, like we'll talk about in my herbicide filing,
right.
hopefully June 10th.
Okay.
When carefully applied like that, stays within the plant and is not translocated out and should not affect
Okay.
the downslope resource areas.
Yeah.
And in that situation, I mean, unfortunately, most of the coastal bank on Rocky Nook, like so many areas that have been developed for a long time, is very dominant with invasives.
Yeah.
So it's likely over time they will take over anyways. We did specify in the enforcement order how that area could be maintained going forward. And, control of invasives, is something that you don't need to allow invasives to take over a restoration area, nor
Right.
really should you.
Yeah.
Because then, you've spent money on all this, stuff that when it establishes will provide really good habitat, but also hopefully look better than invasives will. But in terms of protection of resources, it's better to not allow that stuff to be outcompeted. So
So that would mean another filing.
that's my take on it. Is
Right.
that if you want to do something there to treat those, that, I think that would be something that would be easily permitted, particularly if it's in tandem with planting a couple native shrubs for each. You have a pretty decent sized shrub that you're cutting out, you probably want to replace that with two, because they're smaller native shrubs, but I would want to see that as a separate RDA. I don't think the commission really could or should approve like continued maintenance of shrubs behind
Can I
a
say
conservation
something, though?
post, but also they are invasives.
Yeah.
So,
Can I say
you know,
So, one of the things that with this, because the invasive, the bittersweet was killing the plants, killing this. So this is holding the bank. You know what I mean? The problem too is, from what I believe, when I talked to Paul, I had Grady's, their person that does the landscaping. If those get too tall, because some of them are right close to the edge, then it could lean over and start pulling at them. So by keeping them without the bittersweet and stuff, they're shaped, they're nice. I can show you a picture, I just sent it to Matthew, the picture of the plants. They've been shaped, the bittersweet is out of there, so I got rid of all the bittersweet. I'm 64 years old, I can't be going up this high and grabbing stuff. So they're about my height right now, which is a fine height, and I can get to it now, but I mean, I'm just, I do want a view, but it's more also, I want to keep the bank low, and if it starts going, then it's going to cost more money. If I left them alone, that's what could happen.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take them apart, I don't want to do anything, I just want to maintain the bittersweet out and keeping them at a level so they look like a nice shrub. And the neighbors love, I don't know if you care, but the neighbors love how it looks because it looks nice and clean and organized. So, I'm a Virgo, so I like to organize everything, so.
Okay, just for the record, you would like to leave them and just maintain them as you have?
For now, to be able to
That's
trim
it.
them, because if I wanted, I actually agree with Matt about, I would love that area to be all natural with, native plants and stuff, but I don't have the money right now to do that. Because I've spent a lot of money on this project already this year. So, I am a single person, I'm alone, so, I have to do everything myself. So, I just want to make it nice, and that's what I've been trying to do. But I also don't want bittersweet to take over either, again, because that was horrible. I mean, they were just dying and choking them. So, so these.
here you have, this is the straw wattle along the back of the restoration area, which comes about to here. It coincides with these just small stakes along the front. And these are, I think it was 1, 2, that might have been one as well. So
Yeah,
might
that
be-
is. Those are kind of like sister trees. They kind of grew together.
Yeah,
towards the
so you
middle.
have shrub honeysuckle on either end, and then you have, I think there's 2 gray willows sort of connected together in the middle.
And you said those are invasives.
Yes.
So Matt, there is no filing in front of us, this is just a straw poll on whether or not we see it as an enforceable action if she just trims them?
I suppose, yeah.
Does
Now,
anyone
let me-
have any problems with the trimming?
Let me take a look at the,
We don't.
no, you're good. I was gonna say, I can take a look at the language on the EO that we included for the
No.
vegetative maintenance.
Here's the thing. Take care of them, keep the bittersweet off of them.
Yeah.
Do it.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate because we're gonna get a phone call when she goes out there cutting it. Matt, I guarantee you Matt's gonna get a phone call from one of
He's
her
3 feet
neighbors.
tall.
On Rocky Neck?
Somebody, right, somebody's gonna call and say, where's her permit, where's this? And then it,
They're clearly landscape issues.
like that's how it all started, because somebody made a Facebook post that somebody was cutting on the bank and how did we allow this to happen and blah, 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 blah.
Well, actually, the
And
first
it
thing
is
was
a-
the
it's a
Facebook post from the
conservation-
landscaper who did the work.
Right, so
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, that
I'm
was. that was
just saying,
amazing.
we're gonna come full circle, it's gonna happen again.
Well, Matt,
Do we care? I don't care.
I mean, I do, because I want what I do to be consistent. If I tell somebody they can't maintain behind a conservation post, they can't maintain behind a conservation post. And I understand that the bank and that issue, but
But the bittersweet is an invasive. And
Let me read something.
we want
I
things
understand.
to
That's where
not
I'm
be
just
taken
stuck.
over.
Let me read something, because that's the reason why the regulations exist, is basically what Megan's getting at. But so, Number 4 on the enforcement order that was issued on this property. The property owner shall have the right to maintain vegetation in the restoration area only as follows, or as approved by the Kingston Conservation Agent. All planted vegetation must be allowed to grow naturally. No pruning, no mulching, no chemicals or fertilizers. The intent is for these plants to expand and form a dense vegetated buffer. Invasive plants, non-native weeds, and tree seedlings may be pruned from the area or hand-pulled if small, as long as no soil is left disturbed in the process. So if that was not the intent of what we're talking about here, but in a way it almost does fit in the language, and if you don't prune those invasives or remove them, they will take over that area. And already the seedling,
Yeah,
you know,
and you want to
impact is going to be high.
to remove any kind of flowers or seeds.
For the bittersweet stuff, because what happens is, like, if you look at there are a lot of invasive.
You have to stay behind.
Yeah,
the
it's the mic, sorry.
I know, and I don't talk loud. The bittersweet just comes up, and then there's some other stuff around the stuff, which, when it gets into the plant, then it just starts choking the
Oh, it's crazy, yeah.
it's crazy.
Horrible stuff.
So I just want to make sure that we can take the bittersweet out and then
Yeah.
just trim the top, because it starts growing up. And if it's too high, I can't get to it.
Right,
So that's why we try to keep it around my height.
yeah.
Dot, were you saying something differently, because I know your background? Were you trying to communicate to her that you want to get it before the flowers come in, because it goes to seed and you
Right, if
propagate,
you're
right?
going to be clipping it, you might as well clip it before it flowers, so it can't make seeds. Or if you miss the flowers, then clip it before the seeds mature.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I get that. That's kind of what we try to do in the early spring, is like you
Yeah.
want to do it before everything gets crazy.
I have 2 acres of invasives at my house, and like you, I can no longer do it.
Yeah.
And I have no money to pay for it.
Mhm.
So I understand. It's
Yeah.
very difficult.
Yeah. The
So
budget only goes so far.
procedurally here, we do have language there that says that invasive plants, non-native weeds, tree seedlings may be pruned from the area, meaning the restoration area. So that area, like we showed there, which, roughly includes where those
Make sure she
3 to
has a
4
copy of
shrubs
that,
are.
so that-
But that doesn't include going to the whole coastal
Yeah.
bank and everything around there and pruning invasive plants
No.
down, because if we said that, then the entire coastal bank on the Nook will likely, get a lot shorter, and have a lot less
I could get a board in
stabilization.
my driveway and put it there and say, for anybody who wants to call, only call about not this.
So I do think, given the language that's here, she likely could continue keeping those shrubs pruned down.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a detrimental impact to,
No, because
To
we
buffer
often
zone.
order people to take them out, so she's only going halfway.
I do think,
Nothing wrong with that.
I do think in time, the best scenario there is to get a filing to remove them. Like I said, cut them, treat
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
replace them with natives.
Let's just be very clear that that would require a filing.
Exactly. I
Okay.
already know these things.
Okay.
Here's what I don't want in a situation like this, is to come back and have that whole area be landscaped and maintained. Like, we have a lot of sort of fight over the regulations in coastal areas about maintenance for view shed and controlling things and that sort of stuff. Part of the property is maintained, part of it's not. This is part of the part that's not. I mean, right now, it looks like it's maintained because it's been pruned down over the last couple of years. That doesn't make it a legally landscaped area, but I think what we included for specific language on that restoration area can probably apply to keeping those specific 3 to 4 shrubs from taking over the site.
Yeah,
I think it's a slippery slope.
It is a slippery
It
slope.
is.
But you're
I'm
talking
not-
about 3,
Are those 3 or
Technically
4
4
shrubs specified? That's what it started, not to be mean, it started because she was out of town and her roommate did what they wanted to do. So she understands.
Oh, he understands that.
She understands. But those 3, 4 shrubs are not in those in conditions. It's too slippery for me. I get it. But then her neighbor's gonna call and say, well, our invasives are going crazy and this invasive,
well, tell her.
All right, well, let's do it this way. We don't have a comment. There's no filing in front of us as
Right.
far as this, there's no RDA for us to comment on, and you're getting split comments from us.
If you want to bring in a permit application for an RDA, then you could come back with it. And
To that language, I can still trim it.
that's,
Not according to
have
that.
have a discussion
Not
with
according to
Matt.
me. Prune from the area means
I
prune. Doesn't mean
strongly
prune, keep.
disagree
Prune
with
from the area. The wording is prune from the area.
It's
There's
important.
no,
Let's
no
not get lost in the
the
weeds
worst,
here.
we shouldn't even be talking about this.
Yeah, let's not.
We should not be talking about this.
Let's move on to the next one, okay? Sorry,
So I
we
just
gotta
so I
limit it, we
understand, what does
gotta,
that mean?
what is it? If you wanna trim, you wanna do something that's not covered by your permit, the way that it's written, then you need to come back with a RDA, and we'll discuss it then, and you just tell us exactly what you wanna do, and we'll issue a negative or a positive finding on RDA. And
The
that,
RDA means what?
Request for determination of applicability.
It's what you filed for the fence.
yeah,
For the fence,
okay?
okay.
It's just, there's not a consensus here, and you're asking for a straw poll, and we don't have the time for that tonight. So,
Okay.
okay? We just got a whole bunch of different answers.
So
Sorry.
July 7th is the answer from this, and then,
Did we vote
I
on,
think you did you?
I'm not sure if you voted on
We
the
did
update of
Got a
the
little
EO.
sidetracked.
That
We
will
made a
happen.
date, but we have not voted
We did
on the
not
date.
so
Yeah, you were talking about updating the enforcement order
To
to
July 8th.
specify the conservation posts installed by July
July
7th,
Yep.
or fines would be issued, and we would put this on the
July
July 8th agenda for discussion.
all right, perhaps do I have a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
We have a
Second.
motion by Marilyn, a second by
Dot.
Dot. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, hearing nothing, that's approved, that passes 6-0 to modify.
Just one last question, so if I do an RDA for this, could that go on the 7th too, then if I get it into you?
21-day information receipt deadline, so if you got us the information and it was sufficient, like and complete, by 21 days before July 8th, then you can get on for the 8th.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Matt, 6 Prospect Street continues from an earlier date. Will you bring us up to speed?
Yes. So, backtracking, enforcement orders were issued on April 23rd mandating the following: immediate cease and desist, which was complete, installation of site perimeter fence, landward of the excavated area encircled by 6+ inch silt sock by May 12th. That was complete, but I did note that it may need attention because I did have word that that may have fallen over, and I have not followed up on that in the field. I did not receive any update on that from Brian after the last time we discussed this at a meeting. Engage the services of a professional engineer towards assessing the culvert and preparing a solution to the hazards posed by the condition of the culvert post-excavation. Provide signed agreement by May 12, 26. That's incomplete still, though Brian has made efforts towards hiring an engineer. Brian says he's reached out to around 10 different engineering companies, and most would not touch this type of work. He says he has Stevens Associates Consulting engineers coming out to look at the culvert, but I'm not aware that they have any signed agreement. Supposedly, they said they can come sometime within 30 days. Brian said he was going to continue reaching out to engineers. I did update this that Stevens does appear to be highly qualified for this type of work, but it does appear that they're probably coming to the site to look at the dam, probably due to a requirement from Office of Dam Safety. So Brian did share an email with me from Stevens talking about coming down sometime in June and saying, like, maybe while we're there, we could take a look at the culvert and discuss possible options or give you contact information for somebody who might, be able to work on that. So there's still nothing really locked up on that. It does seem that Brian's just trying to have Stevens also do the culvert while on site, sort of 2 birds with 1 stone, which I get. But everything's still a little up in the air on this. While the water in the excavated hole was clear on the day of the commission's site visit, it's likely that the condition of the culvert still poses a risk to adjacent and downstream resource areas, particularly during larger precipitation events. Ideally, the culvert would be repaired quickly in order to reduce the stream's exposure to sedimentation. So I updated my recommendation on this, that that I'd recommend the commission update the enforcement orders to include a requirement that an NOI be filed for a solution addressing ongoing risks to adjacent and downstream wetland resource areas posed by the current condition of the culvert after the unpermitted work. That would be by a date certain, and you'd also specify a date certain for the work itself to be completed so that you don't run into the just filing of an NOI with no real results. Failure to file or to complete the work on time would be cause for issuance of daily $300 fines until compliance is reached, unless the commission sees fit at that time to issue any extensions. That's pretty much what I have on that, and I don't see Brian here.
All right, thank you. We'll open it up for discussion by the commission and the public.
What happens
What's
if that dam comes down? Isn't the water from the dam going through that culvert under the building and under the parking lot? What if
Yeah,
this-
the dam spillway goes in between the buildings, loses a solid amount of elevation there, and then goes underneath the building and comes around and goes underneath the parking lot. That's where the break is, and then it comes out past the parking lot on the downstream end and daylights out of the culvert.
So how much water will come out if the dam is removed?
How much water would come out?
Yeah,
How do you mean, like?
well, if you take the dam away, how much water is it holding back?
It's holding back Foundry
lot.
Pond.
Foundry Pond.
It's a lot.
So it's gonna wipe out the building?
You mean if the dam
Right,
had
breaks,
had a
right.
catastrophe? All right, sorry, you were saying
Okay.
remove, like,
Well, it looks like.
if there was a catastrophic event with the dam, yeah, I think there would be
Yeah.
a severe issue there.
So I think-
Office of Dam Safety was on site at the site visit with us and DEP, so they had their engineers there to review it, and I did ask, they still have not provided their report, but I did ask them before they left the site that day if there was any concern of imminent risk there, and they said no, they didn't think that it was in a condition where it was imminent to just,
Okay.
fall apart, but they were likely to downgrade the
Yeah.
condition to poor, which would require phase 1 reports every 6 months. So,
All right.
I mean, at this point, this enforcement discussion is over a month old, correct? I
yeah,
think we have given 2 weeks to make forward progress. He had made some forward progress. And then it seems like this update is exactly the same one we got last time.
Yeah, I mean, the only update from this was that he did just send the email from Stevens and essentially say that he thinks he has somebody who might be interested in it. But
But they won't be there for
They-
still weeks.
yeah, I mean, potentially maybe a week or 2 to 3 weeks. I have no idea. And again, there's nothing set in stone, I think, even for a date for that. So what I wouldn't want to happen and wouldn't recommend to the commission is we just keep kind of like kicking this down the road, hoping that some action takes hold there. I think it's important during enforcement to set deadlines and.
So this is my concern, right? The last time we were out there, or last time somebody was out there, or there was a report, the hole had filled up with water, right?
Yes.
Meaning that there is some kind of impediment to the flow, meaning that it's causing water to back up out of the chamber. And at some point, it's going up and it's coming down, and it's going up and it's coming down. Every time you saturate the ground and it finds any kind of breach in maybe the next section, you're going to start losing water through a channelized flow through those imperfections, and this could get worse, which is why at the first time we were involved here, I made it very clear that I thought this was a big deal, that there was other things and they kind of fell by the wayside. But I think this is a serious concern that we could be, just by allowing this to continue on without an engineer involved who's going to have to do their due diligence and say, nope, okay, we stuck the camera down there, we know that this is a problem that's causing the flow, we can see, okay, that the granite's broken over here too, yada, 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 whatever it is. But there would be some kind of forward movement, we would know that, instead of well, it's just a hole, there's gonna be some water, there's gonna be some flow, it might back up, there's concern here that this could get worse, and I think that we need to take that seriously, and I think that we've been gracious in allowing the last 2-week extension, but I don't know that we see anything in front of us that tells us that there is a consolidated effort to get that engineer out there to survey it and tell us that don't worry, there's nothing bad that's gonna happen, it's just this, we'll draw up something, we'll take some forward steps. So right now, we're at the point where we've heard that somebody might be coming out in the next few weeks, they might be interested, they might not, and if they are not interested, then perhaps they'll give us another referral. That doesn't meet the intent of what I had, so at this point, I gotta say that I think we need to start seriously discussing daily fines until we get the movement that we need to satisfy our concerns that this could be escalating right in front of us.
Just adding on a little bit to that, I think if you had a qualified engineer do what you just said and send a camera down there under the right conditions and potentially identify what is blocking the culvert and have a plan to fix that, if we could get a state agency, whether it's, would likely be DEP, to issue a mandate that be cleared, the commission could have that work happen through an emergency orders of conditions. They would still need to file a full order of conditions to fix the culvert, but at least getting flow to start
They
again
could rectify the blockage.
would at least reduce some of the risk that you see now. Because in my expectation, and again, the engineer would have to confirm this, but my understanding would be that there is likely a stone, bottom and sides to this that may still be intact. So your exposure to sediment is coming from the backup and any of the excavation that was done. So if you can get that flow to go back within sort of the boundaries of where it should have been, there's likely less risk to the resource areas than there would be if we have a large rain event and you get a lot of backup there. And then you get a lot of scour from the hole and potentially continued undermining of the parking area. So I think it is something that if you get somebody on site quickly, there are pathways to try to get some of this stuff resolved quickly.
I think what you said is accurate. The other thing that I think we need to keep in mind is that we're only here for one reason, and that's because there was a sinkhole. You don't get a sinkhole unless you wash out what was in the ground. So my concern is very valid. I'm not thinking abstract here. We see that there was an actual failure because of the same condition that I'm concerned with, and they're not doing anything. And it's wide open, and now there's more in the hole, there's more backup, there's going to be more rising,
Right.
There's going to be more water coming out of it, right? So we don't want that rise. The longer it goes, the more cycles it goes through, the worse it's going to get that whole run. And now we're talking about 100 feet that needs to be addressed versus potentially whatever it is, 6 feet or whatever they originally said. So I think that what I would feel comfortable with as one commissioner is that we give them another week with fines accruing starting at the end of 7 days, because we need that engineer on site. We need certain things returned. We don't need a full NOI filing at this point. We're going to need one, or we're going to need an emergency declaration or whatever it is. But we need actual movement, and we need that engineer to get out there. And if there's not a fine saying, every day you wait, it's another fine, then...
Do you think that there's, are you saying engineers aren't interested in
I think it's a
coming
very-
out and help? Do
sorry.
you think that it's a bona fide argument, and that assigning fines to him is going to make this any better? I've been to the site, you've been to the site. It doesn't look like it's producing any income for anybody. He doesn't look like, you can add fines onto him. I don't know how motivating that's going to be if you can't get an engineer out there.
Do you want me to read a little bit of what he forwarded from Stevens? I think it might frame it a little bit. So this is an engineer from Stevens Associates Consulting Engineers saying, it's their understanding that a sinkhole formed downstream of the mill buildings, talks about, the culvert, understands the commission is requiring him to engage an engineer to design a fix. It says, "As discussed, our services are for visual inspection of the dam, which includes commenting on observations of the downstream area consistent with the dam inspection checklist required by the state." So this is in response to Office of Dam Safety. "Regarding the downstream culvert that carries the dam discharge, our observation would likely be that there is a deficiency with the culvert that should be fixed. However, our services exclude further evaluation and design of repairs. When we are there for the dam inspection, we can discuss if culvert evaluation and repair design is something that we could help with under separate contract or suggest other engineers. We anticipate we could be there for dam inspection likely during the first 2 weeks of June, and we'll coordinate a specific date with you in advance." So it does appear that Office of Dam Safety required this inspection, and he did contract Stevens Engineering to go down there and do the dam inspection. So
He did or the state did?
I don't know the answer to that. My
I expect the state.
expectation was that this was a contract between him and Stevens, but it entirely could be with Office of Dam
Yeah, I read
Safety,
that
because
differently, yeah.
they did bring their own consulting engineers to inspect the dam the day we were there, but this is a different firm.
Nothing in that, as somebody who works in the industry, nothing in that tells me that he's a client of that engineering firm.
Yeah,
The way
it's,
that it's written. We're coming out, we're looking at this, we're under contract for this. Potentially, we might be interested in providing you a quote for the services that you need. So from that
yeah, it
perspective.
could be one way or the other. I don't think it one way or the other shows that, other than there is a requirement that they be there and there is a contract with them, whether it's with him or with the state. I don't know.
Well, he doesn't own the dam, correct?
No.
Right, so why would he be under contract? Why would he have contracted to have?
Well,
it
similar
inspected?
to Conservation Commission taking enforcement action for this wetlands violation, Office of Dam Safety has been trying to force him as the, person in more or less control of the property for the last several decades to take action related to the dam, same way that DEP's Bureau of Waste Site Cleanup is holding him accountable for what needs to happen there for waste site cleanup.
So maybe I just don't understand that. I thought that dams were infrastructure, and I thought that they were owned by state, and I don't know how this
No,
works.
dams are often privately owned. And it's just the fact that on this property, there really is no, I don't want to say no owner of record, but no owner of record that is responsive or expected to still be in existence as a organization.
Right. Nothing in this conversation has changed the fact that we're at a point where we need action. We only have one tool. Kalina, to your
Yes, I agree.
question, I guess, was we only have one tool, and our tool is that we get to issue fines because he's not doing what we said needs to be done, because he opened up a sinkhole that happens to be very much inside a resource area, not next to it, not adjacent to it. He opened up the resource area. And I would contend that his opening now has hazarded other areas of that same resource area. So I think that giving him another 7 days and then assigning fines at that point moving forward puts him in a position where maybe it doesn't work. Maybe he just says, I'm just walking away from the problem. I don't know, but I know that we only have one tool, and that's where it starts and ends. So, other comments? Does anybody disagree with that?
No, I think that's an accurate assessment.
Okay. Are we comfortable providing that guidance to Matt? Do we want to take a
Sure.
vote? All right, so
The 7 days and then,
7 days and then $300 a day
Right.
afterwards, each day.
This is
So he
for
has a
getting
busy-
a contract signed.
yeah.
Yep. All the stuff that we've already discussed, we're extending one more time to 7 days. We want to see that, and I think that we should have maybe signed within 7 days, and then another for a deliverable back from the engineer with his evaluation of the existing culvert, whatever the proper language is for that, and we'd want to see that within 14
With a
days.
plan of, do you want to see it with
I
at
wanna-
least a concept,
well, a proposal.
as opposed to, I went and I looked at the site?
Right, I want
Do you
to
want it
hear
to say,
that.
like, I'm
he
going to
enga-
recommend,
Hang on,
something?
let me go. I want to hear that he engaged, signed a contract, And the deliverable that we wanted, first step was a survey done. We want existing conditions, we want to know how bad this is, and so that we can make more time-based decisions as we move forward. So I think 14 days for an engineer, if he engages,
So 7 days to get the signed, and then 14 days out from that to
another
get a
deliverable.
deliverable.
Yep, so another,
Yeah.
another set date, and if he misses that, then we'll talk about.
Just to clarify, that would be, that 14-day section would be a new request. We never
Yeah.
asked for a
Right.
plan.
Right.
All we asked for was a signed contract so
Right.
far.
Right.
When I say we, I mean you.
But not a plan at this point, we want a survey, right? We want to know that he surveyed it and he knows what's wrong and he has a good idea of what the corrective action is. Because once he looks at it and he knows, then he has a general understanding of what the scope is.
So what you want for the follow-up deliverable is you want the PE to write a letter to the commission, detailing what
His assessment of the
is,
situation.
is what he
Yeah.
saw, or he or she saw on site, and what,
And going forward, what's the solution?
right, so you're not necessarily gonna ask for like a fully
Call it a
engineered
30
solution, but
30
you wanna have,
30% design. At that point, he will have to have done his due diligence. He would have to generally understand what the scope of work is, and then give us a general understanding of what the repairs should look like. Doesn't ask for anything specific, it just says, okay, I went out, I did my job, I surveyed, I stuck the camera down, we've identified the blockages, we can see where it's coming in, we have deficiencies at foot 5, foot 10, every slab joint that there is, and then let him explain what the course of corrective actions are, and that would be enough to show that there was positive movement within that 14-day period from, the 7-day grace period. So that should give him enough time to do it.
so basically what we're doing is we're saying June 4th for the signed, contract with an engineer. And then we're going 14 days after that is June 18th for the deliverable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody okay with that? Okay. So
So do you need that in the form of a motion, or what?
so that, my motion would be to update the EOs as discussed. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Marilyn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that passes 6-0.
I abstained.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't say it.
I gotta say it. I gotta start
Yeah,
saying
but
it.
I abstained.
Okay.
I don't think you'll be able to do it. I-
Sadly, that's not the point. It's,
I know.
again, back to Jim's point, this is all we've got to work with, so.
I know.
We can't be inactive.
But I would assume that he will walk away rather than,
Oh, I totally agree with you,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean
No.
you're gonna vote for him. I can't see a future for him.
no.
You can abstain all you want.
Yep.
That is your right.
You're right. That's right.
And I will support you in that always.
All right, Matt, agent updates on ongoing projects.
The biggest update is our incredible assistant conservation agent getting word from MassDOT on finally, the funding of the Lake Street Culvert Replacement Project. So,
Good job. That was a big number.
it was a big number. Georgie wrote that grant. This is her first grant win, and her first grant win is 1.6, almost $1.7 million.
Yeah.
As the Conservation Department prefers in all of our grants, they are funding the entire project. There's no cost to the town, there's no match funding. So this is an excellent, excellent project that's going to improve fish passage for several diadromous species. It is going to improve stormwater inputs into the river. It is going to improve resiliency, because right now the Jones River is forced into a 4-foot wide pipe. And it will be a roughly 19-foot bridge with a natural stream bottom when we're all done with it. So, excellent, excellent news. The work, we actually already have a contract going right now, funded by DER Culvert Program, for our design engineer to put together all the bid documents. So the bid documents are essentially done and ready to go, with all the construction drawings and specifications. So this really will be built summer of 2027. The in-road portion of the project, which is the majority of it, has to happen while Silver Lake Regional School, middle and high school, is on summer break. So the in-road work will happen between, let's say, last week of June and the end of August. There will be a little bit of time on either end for out-of-road work, stormwater BMP installation, and prep work and things like that. But the whole project itself will probably wrap up, I would think, by end of October of 2027. So we've worked a lot with other town departments, public safety departments, just to make sure that we've thought of every angle for logistics through the process. And it's just really, really good to have this one funded. So
Big win.
Good job.
that's why we hire
Yes,
good people.
yes. Now, will you be sharing this information with any of the other boards in town? Have you put out any notice or anything?
I
like that?
emailed around, when I emailed the commission on BCC the other day, was just emailing the town administrator and town planner who works in tandem with us on a lot of grants like this. But I did contact a lot of different departments on this, and the town administrator, I'm not sure if he'll just forward this to them. He said if we want, we should, would come up at the next BOS meeting and give a presentation on it or something, which, I don't know, maybe I'll have Georgie do that since it was her grant.
Yay.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, I think too, I think it also gives credibility to our efforts in the past of upgrading this position to an assistant conservation agent. I mean, this is a
Yeah.
sterling example of the value.
Yeah, it's been on my mind a lot, because I recall the time period where she was working on this grant. Like, I'm not sure that I would have gotten the grant done if we did not have someone in that position, and
Yeah.
especially somebody in that position who's capable of doing
Well,
that
again,
work.
we're talking about a skill set, and it deserves that change in position.
Yeah, I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but she's worth every penny that we pay her and then some. And I might cry every day if it wasn't for her being there, so it's good. It's good. Other than that, I don't have any major project updates. I think I sent to the commission the last Bates Pond Trail
Look at the map.
update, and so that is progressing. We should see an NOI filing on that soon. I don't know if I can announce anything on this yet, so I won't until I clear this, but I did have somebody reach out to me from a town department that may have some significant money to put towards the actual implementation of that Bates Pond project, which is really cool. That's gonna be, I think, also a bear to get funded, because the design has only made the project more significant. There's one major grant program that deals with that, the Mass Trails Grant, and in my feedback meeting, the last time they denied us on this, when it was a lot more tentative and not really designed yet, their feedback was, if it's just an out and back, we don't care, essentially. I'm paraphrasing, but they said if you can get out to those old fire roads and make the whole loop, we really, really like this project, and we probably would fund it. It remains to be seen if they'll fund it more than they typically do. Typically, they have a $100,000 cutoff unless it's a regional or rail trail. So, but I think what I mean from them is that if we have the full loop, they would probably fund it and may consider funding it above the $100,000 limit, because it's just chewing numbers in my head. It's definitely going to be way more than that. So we'll be, whenever we're ready to do so, which I don't think that grant is coming back around again until probably the fall. The last round of it, we really didn't have our design anywhere close yet, so I didn't feel comfortable of even applying. I just figured we'd take a year off of it. So that, and we haven't done the test pits yet for Drew and Seaver, but that should happen hopefully tomorrow. So
Test pit for what?
the Drew and Seaver Ave stormwater BMP project. Yeah, the Rocky Nook Stormwater RDA that you guys saw last time. We got pushed back on the test pits because of rain. It never rains until we go to do something good. So I think that's all. It's been a busy couple of months. It's been a very busy couple of weeks. She was on vacation last week, which is not allowed ever again.
Sorry.
That's all I got for you, unless you have questions.
Okay.
Any questions for Matt? Any further discussion? Sir? Sir? Were you here for something specific that we didn't get to, or? All right. Oh, 'cause
Bad
it's
TV
closing
night?
time, so. All right, that said, the next meeting will be held June 10th, 2026, starting at 6:30 PM. The time is now 8:35 PM. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. Motion by Marilyn, do I have a second? Second by Megan. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? Okay, motion carries 6-0.